Gold is certainly signaling financial chaos, and I advocate gold as an insurance policy, and certainly it's been a very handy insurance policy lately, but now you're seeing silver and platinum try to catch up. So certainly the world's financial system is precarious. The UK is bankrupt. France is bankrupt. Germany is bankrupt. There are riots against corruption in Nepal. There are riots against corruption in Indonesia. There are riots against corruption in Madagascar. And frankly, I think we're going to see it in the United States very soon.
You're watching CapitalCosm. My name is Danny. It is October 2nd, 2025, and my guest today is the publisher of 321gold.com. It's none other than Bob Moriarty. Bob, thank you so much for coming on the show, my friend.
Danny, it's always fun. We have some good conversations. I just wish there was something serious to talk about. We need to talk about silver.
Yeah, let's talk about silver, actually. Yeah, let's go ahead and pull up a chart here. Silver's at $47.25 at the time of this recording. What do you want to talk about silver here, Bob? It looks like, we could hit that $50 mark. That's pivotal $50 all-time high, maybe in the next week or two. At this rate,
I think we will. You know me well enough. I am a contrarian, and the best contrarian signal that I've ever seen is the daily sentiment indicator, the DSI. And literally 2 days ago, the price of gold went up and the DSI went down. And I have never seen that happen. But the DSI for silver as of yesterday was only 80. And that does not signal a correction. So I think that silver is going to make a leap to 50, at least 50.
At least 50. I mean, yeah, that wouldn't be a big ask. It would be like what, a 6% move in the price of silver, something like that. This is a long-term view of the silver price dating all the way back to the 70s. And we are about to complete this cup and handle formation once we hit that $50 mark.
Right.
So how high does silver go by year end in your estimation?
Strange enough, and that's a good question, but you've got it inverted. Anytime you're talking about the price of gold or the price of silver, you're talking about two commodities. You're talking about silver or gold, and you're talking about the currency in which you're quoting it. The price of gold and the price of silver today is predicting financial chaos and perhaps war.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. What signals are these gold and silver prices sending? Because it's very fascinating you bring the prospect of war up, considering we just had this big all hands on deck meeting at the Department of War with all these 1-star and above generals. But at the same time, you have gold making new all-time highs, closing in at $3,900 on the futures market. But what's interesting is that oil, let's go ahead and look at that. Oil continues to struggle, $61. Shouldn't we also anticipate oil getting a bid as well if war was on the horizon?
We should, and that is interesting to me because if it's accurate, there will be no war, but we don't know that's true. The United States has sent a number of refueling aircraft and a number of fighter aircraft, presumably the F-22 and the F-35, to Qatar. And there are actually 6 nuclear sniffer aircraft orbiting over the United States. So Donald Trump appears to have gotten his marching orders, and the president of peace is about to start another war, but oil doesn't see it. So it's an interesting dichotomy. Either oil is accurate or gold is accurate, but they cannot both be accurate.
Right. If anything, it seems like the fact that we are seeing oil not get a bid while the precious metals do, it seems like it's signaling more of a financial crisis than anything else. Wouldn't you say that could also be a potential scenario?
100%, 100%. What you're seeing with the price of gold, and you've got to consider the price of platinum and the price of silver at the same time,
Mhm.
because you're seeing something unique. This staggering increase in the value of gold. Gold is 110 times higher than it was when I was a kid. Now I can't think of anything else that is a real commodity that's gone up that much, but gold is certainly signaling financial chaos, and I advocate gold as an insurance policy, and certainly it's been a very handy insurance policy lately. But now you're seeing silver and platinum try to catch up. So certainly the world's financial system is precarious. The UK is bankrupt. France is bankrupt. Germany is bankrupt. There are riots against corruption in Nepal. There are riots against corruption in Indonesia. There are riots against corruption in Madagascar. And frankly, I think we're going to see it in the United States very soon. The one takeaway that I got from Donald Trump when he had that meeting on Tuesday with the generals
Mm.
was that we were going to go to war against American cities. Uh, and that scares me, frankly, because we got 350 million Americans, we got 400 million guns. And sooner or later, people are going to start thinking, well, those guys make really handy targets. I am not against his theory. Okay. We need to reduce crime in the democratically run cities. But he walks into a china shop with a baseball bat, and that's always dangerous.
And this could create some incohesion within the military too. I mean, that's why it looked like he was doing some sort of loyalty test as well with the generals. He had like this comment that he said where he said, if I'm going to go meet with the generals, and if I don't like them, I'm going to fire them. It seems like he was signaling like a military purge, because
Well,
what's
strange
going to
enough,
happen next? Yeah.
he needs to think about coup d'etat. I'm not sure if I was the president of the United States, I would go in and insult 1,000 generals and admirals. They're the guys who actually control the military. I would be very interested in seeing in hindsight how many of those guys retire in the next week or two. Because frankly, okay, for most of them, and that would be 80 or 90% of them, they're at their peak in their careers. So it doesn't cost them anything to retire. They've all served over 30 years, so they're going to max out at 75% of their wages. Uh, I don't know what the fallout from that meeting is going to be, but if I was a general, the Secretary of Defense and the President just insulted me, and I'm not sure if that's a good idea.
Yeah. Well, what do you think he alluded to when he said about the enemy within?
Well, the Democrats, okay,
Mm.
I think the guy's doesn't realize it, but he's trying to start a civil war. I think we're a lot closer to a civil war. If you've been paying any attention, the number of mass murders has just
Mm.
shot up since Charlie Kirk was assassinated. And you've got a lot of Americans who think, I'm going to go to the closet, get a gun, and go shoot people. And I happen to be against that. Uh, there is a crime problem because of the corruption in the Democrats, which is absolutely total. But Donald Trump's reaction to it is he's going to try to out corrupt them. He has tripled his wealth since he entered the White House. the family in general has made something like $7.5 billion as a result. He's selling cell phones at $499. He's selling perfume at $249. He's got a meme coin that 86% of people who invested in lost money. He's got a meme coin for his wife. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, this guy wants to rename the Gulf of Mexico. He wants to rename the Defense Department. He wants to challenge the legal system in Israel. He wants to challenge the legal system in Brazil. He wants to change the name of football teams. Who exactly does he think he is? What was he elected for?
Yeah. Well, if we were to have a civil war, would that stop their agenda on a world war with, let's say, Iran or Russia? Like, you can't have a civil war and a war abroad at the same time.
Why not? Okay. Strange enough, we have 7 ships, 8 ships, 4,500 Marines, a submarine, F-35s sitting off Venezuela, ostensibly trying to stop the drug trade. But how do you stop a drug shipment with a submarine? And as much as I know about weapons, I can't figure out how you would do it. But we've got a armada sitting in Qatar. We have sent refueling aircraft to the UK, probably for use in Ukraine. So I think Donald Trump, he's going to have to work pretty hard to earn that Nobel Peace Prize.
Yeah, and it seems like he alluded to a ground invasion of Venezuela as well. He said, we will fight the cartels on land in Venezuela.
As a guy who was a Marine grunt for about 6 months, I could tell you that would be a really, really bad idea.
Why do you say that?
Well, you got 4,500 Marines and you got 3 million pissed off Venezuela. Do the numbers.
And then, what's the purpose of going in after Venezuela if not for the cartels? Is it to eventually weaken Cuba as well, then go after Cuba, and then Nicaragua or something, just consolidate South America, and then finally Brazil?
Well, you just raised a really good point. We have sanctions against Cuba that have been in force in 1959. What has Cuba done in the last 20 years that was negative to the United States? Why is Cuba the enemy? And frankly, whether you like Maduro or not, what is it that Venezuela has done that they are our enemy? Or for that matter, what has Russia done or China? Donald Trump's peak position in the military was in high school as a member of the ROTC. He is utterly clueless about the capabilities of the military or how to use them or what to do with them. And frankly, I see 3 potential wars, any one of which could start any day now. I think attacking Venezuela, we can kill a lot of people, but killing people has nothing to do with winning wars. Everybody makes that mistake. There were 2 or 3 million people killed in the Vietnam conflict. Believe it or not, the largest number of people killed was actually in Cambodia, okay, through Pol Pot. But we've got this bizarre situation where we have all these weapons of war that are only good for killing people. You are not going to take Venezuela over with 4,500 Marines. And I've got a lot of respect for Marines. but I've got a lot more respect for 3 million pissed off Venezuelans.
Yeah, and don't forget that they have the biggest oil reserve in the world too.
I'm trying to figure out how that fits into the picture. Obviously, it has to, but it's Trump so delusional? He thinks that a regime change there, everybody's going to sign up to join the U.S. Army. You're too young to remember it, but in 1959, President Nixon, not president, he was the vice president then, Vice President Nixon visited Venezuela, and they stoned his car. And of course, I was a 15-year-old kid, and I looked at it and said, wait a minute, I thought everybody loved the United States. But the South Americans and Central Americans clearly did not love the United States. I don't understand why Russia is the enemy. I don't understand why Cuba is the enemy. I certainly don't understand why Venezuela is the enemy. We could use that oil in our refineries, and all we're doing is forcing the Venezuelans to get into bed with the Chinese.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and shift over back to the gold and silver trade, because that's, at least from that perspective, we can maybe get a little rich, even if it means the world around us falls into calamity. But
well, it's one of those good news, bad news stories.
Yeah.
Would you like me to tell you? The good news is I'm really old.
It's a good time to be old.
Yeah.
You don't want to be young in draft age, that's for sure.
The bad news is you're not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of people aren't old. It's a bull market for old people right now. Or let's say
could be a good time. Yeah. We don't have as much to lose as you do.
Yeah, it's a bear market for young people. But let's go ahead and talk about, let's take it back to gold and silver here. Let's talk about the mining stocks here really quick. Mining stocks have been outperforming both precious metals, and it seems to be at the backs of, number one, the gold and silver trade running amok to the upside, but at the same time, oil getting a bit down or relatively being subdued, and thereby expanding the margins on these mining stocks. Have these mining stocks run up too far too fast, or are we just simply reverting back to mean here? Is this not so much a bull market, but a reversion back to normalcy?
I'm not even sure it will be a revision back to the mean. You always deviate from the mean, and then you revise to the mean. But let me give you an idea of what you're gonna see. There's a company called Prospector that came out with extraordinary results, 42 meters of multi-ounce gold yesterday. And the stock was 30 cents at the open yesterday, and it was $1.60 today. The gold stocks in general, gold and all resource stocks in general, are so cheap now. You're going to see a lot of stocks up 1,000, 2,000, 5,000%. As a percentage of the economy, in 1929, mining was 29% of the economy, and now it's under 3%.
Hey guys, quick pause from the podcast, but this is something I feel is really important to let you in on. Back in 2020, before I even started this channel, I was looking for an edge, a way to find the big opportunities most investors never even hear about. That's when I found Capitalist Exploits Insider. From day one, it felt like I suddenly had my own team of world-class market pros working for me, digging up trades all over the world, doing the deep research, and handing me ideas that had massive asymmetric upside. Stuff that I would never even think about. Since then, my gains with them have blown past the S&P and the NASDAQ, and it's honestly the single best newsletter I've ever subscribed to. And that's not me blowing smoke. That's for real. I've interviewed their publisher, Chris McIntosh, more times than I can count. In fact, my latest conversation with him is linked in the description box down below if you want to check that out, as well as the pinned comment. And every time, I'm reminded why I've stayed a member for years. Right now, they're offering a special $1,000 discount on the Insider subscription, but it's only for CapitalCosm viewers, so you're only going to get it by clicking the link down below in the description box or the pinned comment. You're not going to find this anywhere else. Click the link, lock it in, and start getting the same game-changing research I've been using since 2020. Yeah, and I believe it was Goldman Sachs, one of their analysts came out and said that if they could see gold hitting $5,000 in 2026, if only 1% of portfolio allocations move their funds into precious metals. Now,
that's a good analogy. And there was another big hedge fund.
1%. Think of what happened at 2% or 3% or even 4%.
How about 20%?
Mm-hmm.
A hedge fund manager or one of the major firms said you need to change your allocation. In the past, the best allocation was 60% stocks and 40% bonds for protection. And you need to change that to 40% stocks, 40% bonds, and 20% gold. You get into stupid numbers when you talk about 1, 2, 3, 5. When you talk about 20%, you're literally talking about multiple thousands of percent increase in gold. And I'm already shocked. I was buying gold at $35 an ounce 60 years ago.
Do you still have the gold that you bought back then today? You bought that in 65?
I'm not sure I bought this one, but I did buy gold in 1967 that I still have. And I look at the purchases I've made over the last 30 years. There were English sovereigns. My wife was really funny. I talked to her a little bit to you about it. She was goofy. Okay. She married me. So, she was goofy. And she bought some English sovereigns. Okay. And I'll show you what an English sovereign looks like. It's about the size of a US $5 gold piece. And they were $65 a piece. And she put it in a little envelope and marked the price down. I thought, that's goofy. But, and I've still got that somewhere. And I went out to see what they are cost now, and they're $900.
Wow.
So there are going to be some gigantic fortunes made in resource stocks because we're going to go from a debt-based system to a resource-based system. And BRICS has already started the way. The debt-based system of the West is clearly collapsing. When the French seized that Russian tanker a few days ago, that was piracy. When the EU stole $300 billion from Russia, I'm not talking about whether the war is a good thing or a bad thing. The EU stole $300 billion. The United States and the EU and NATO and Canada and Australia have given everyone else in the world a really great reason not to hold US dollars. And we're going to pay a price for it. Americans are going to see inflation and or hyperinflation very soon as a result of deliberate actions on the part of the government.
Yeah. You mentioned the BRICS settlement currency and its apparent reliance on gold as collateral for that settlement currency, that cross-border settlement currency as well. And if that is indeed the case, then the incentive lies for the price of gold for them to go up, not only because it increases their collateral, but because they have to buy more. And by buying more, they increase demand. And by increasing demand, you see higher gold prices. So it seems like there's gold has so much tailwind behind it, even though it's risen to new all-time highs from what, $1,700 a couple of years ago to almost 4,000 today. I mean, there's so much relying on this price going up that, it may see a correction every now and then, but there's definite tailwind signs for sure.
Well, not only tailwinds, one of the things we haven't talked about, but we should talk about, is who or what drives the price of gold. And it literally is a rush out of the dollar, out of T-bonds, out of T-bills. You got this bizarre situation where in the UK, they can't balance the budget. They're about to increase taxes dramatically. There have been riots in France, and I love the French. They're not rioting for the government to balance the budget. They're rioting because they don't want to lose their benefits. And of course, in any country, when the voters learn they can vote themselves benefits, that's the end of that country. And that's where we are. We're seeing the greatest shift financially since 1492. And frankly, it's invisible to 99%. You talked about Professor Zhang. The guy is absolutely brilliant, and he gets it.
Yeah. I think the order of events is that republics go from democracies, and democracies are usually the end stage of a nation, because that's when, like you said, the masses begin voting themselves benefits, and just that's when you see the spiral downward.
We never talked about the United States being a democracy until Franklin Roosevelt. Okay, the United States is not a democracy. The United States is a republic. The best definition that I've ever heard of democracy is two wolves and a sheep arguing over what to have for lunch. And I did find it just wonderful that the French are literally marching in the streets saying, don't reduce our benefits. And of course, their solution is to increase taxes. And they've already got the highest taxes in the world. So we are at peak insanity, and we're going to pay a price for that very shortly. I just hope we survive the insanity. If you want to see what's going on, you need to go back and reread Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire, because everything that happened in 200 or 300 or 400 AD is happening today. You've got emperors. You had 3 emperors in 1 year because they weren't paying the Praetorian Guard enough money, so the Praetorian Guard killed them. You got the Charlie Kirk assassination. That's certainly goofy. We know that's goofy. You got corruption on such a massive scale, and the fact that there are riots going on all over the world is a answer against the corruption. It was all forecast in the fourth turning. And you've got 2 directions that you can go. You can go to totalitarian government, or you can go to peace. So you got to do one or the other. And I think there's a lot of people rebelling against the status quo, and we are going to see big changes. And it's a good time to protect yourself and protect your family. It's an extremely precarious time financially.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this has been a fantastic interview here, Bob. We do have some questions from my Substack audience. This is from Brattles, and he wants to know that, speaking about false flags in Ukraine and expansion of the proxy wars for some time now, many other guests also, like Professor Jang, who referenced to Parsi, reports of tankers launched recently means something might be about to happen. I'm curious how an expansion of the proxy hybrid wars might play out in the markets. Wars are generally inflationary, but the everything bubble is also in play. And so it seems to me it could go either way with the markets. I'm curious uh, what the guest sees on the inflationary wars versus demand destroying event combined with fear and uncertainty. Two interesting forces at play.
Okay, you've got a situation where you've got drones that supposedly were flown into Poland. You've got drones that went into Romania, and you've got Russian aircraft that went into Estonian airspace. You've got drones in Denmark. Uh, I would say somewhere above 95% of those are false flags. Clearly, NATO is losing in Ukraine, and they will do anything to drag the United States into it. Some of the drones that were supposedly flown into Poland had their noses duct taped. Okay, they clearly were drones that had landed in Ukraine, and they either flew them or carried them into Poland. Those are all false flags. Zelensky's losing the war. He's stealing $50 million a month and shipping it to his personal accounts in the Middle East. So what's going to happen? If they drag the United States into the conflict in Ukraine, it will be World War III, and everybody will lose. The world's financial system is the biggest bubble ever, and you could think of it as standing on the edge of a cliff, and a war would literally kick it off the cliff. So I don't see good things happening financially, except for gold and silver. And I see a lot of bad things potentially happening. But that's a really, really good question. Whoever asked that had thought about the question. It's a great question.
Oh, well, thank you. This is from Brattles. And if you guys would like to ask questions to any of my future guests, consider becoming a member to the Substack. It's only $8 a month or $80 a year. And you get the chance to ask questions to people like Bob and anyone else that you want to. So, Bob, I think we've covered pretty much everything. And I know we have a hard out here in a few minutes, but anything else you want to cover before we sign off here?
I don't think so. I think we've touched on most of the important things. It is a time to be very conservative. And quite bluntly, for anybody who believes in a religion, it would be a great time to get right with God, because we are in a dangerous period, and Satan has control of way too many people.
It certainly does appear so. And hard to argue with that advice for sure. Bob, where can people find you if they want to see more of your work?
Well, strange enough, that's the best question of all. They need to go to Amazon. I've got about 10 books on Amazon. I've got short fiction. I've got several books on economics, a book on war, and I'm a good writer. I'm a very funny writer, and I've got a very wide reach. And the books are especially timely right now. I plucked 3 pages from the last of my book on war, and I posted on September 18th. And if you read that, go to 321gold.com and read the article from September 18th. You'll think, wow, this guy absolutely got it. Everything that's happening today is stuff that I predicted 9 years ago. And at the conclusion, I said that in the future, we're going to have far less government because we cannot afford the level of government that we have today, and we'll have fewer wars because we can't afford them. And I absolutely stand by that.
All right. We'll have the links to 321 Gold as well as your Amazon store or list of Amazon books that people can buy. So, Bob, thank you so much for your time, my friend. It's always a pleasure speaking to you. Guys, if you enjoyed this podcast, drop us a like and comment. Go, Bob, go in the comments section. If you agreed or disagreed, let me know either way. I do, in fact, read the comments, but let me know why you agreed or disagreed. And then finally, check us out on Substack at capitalcosm.substack.com to, again, ask questions to any of my future guests and support me monetarily. But if monetarily is a struggle at the moment, perfectly understandable. You can always just like and subscribe and do all the YouTube stuff to boost our engagement and boost our presence in the YouTube algorithm. And it may not seem like much, but it certainly does go a long way, and it's free. And it helps support the channel. So with all that said, Bob, thank you for coming. Guys, thank you for watching, and I will catch you later. Bye.
Good job.